your true nature, and everything else you experience as the world is like the rainbow. This is why the Dzogchen tradition, they pick the rainbow as their team mascot. It's the pristine, vibrant expression of all possible colors. It's like a dream. Its form is empty, and its emptiness is form. A hologram that's both present and not present.
Are you? What's your name again?
I don't know.
Frank? Your videos subconsciously changed the way I'm thinking.
Really? How?
Can't even describe it, yeah.
You can perceive and experience the rainbow, but you can't touch it. Neither permanent nor impermanent. Just imagine the infinite webs and infinite webs of causes and conditionings that have to occur at the precise moment for the rainbow to appear. If you take away just one element of this co-arising, co-creation process, the rainbow disappears.
Fuck you, Trump!
I'm gonna get this bread, I'll come back to you, girl. Call me.
And this can be applied to every single sensation that you have. Every single thought, every single movement, smell, taste, sound, sight. When this appears, that appears. When this ceases, that ceases. The particle that's sitting next to the poop of a dinosaur had to be there for that precise moment, for this moment to occur exactly the way it is.
No way! No way! You just blew my mind! Holy shit!
But dependent arising at the deepest level actually means non-arising. Cause and effect is empty without time or space, because each individual part of this co-creation process is also empty, which is why everything is also full. So it's rainbow, it's all the way down, ephemeral and without substance. And this is how every single sensation that makes up the entire universe is manifested moment to moment. A spontaneous perfection created by no one, just hanging there without any effort in the sky. And that's what you are too, and none of it. But all the stuff on a conventional level, like space-time or mind, matter, they all exist as constructions of the brain. But the brain itself, as a matter of experience, is also imagined. You've never directly perceived the brain, except for an image arising in consciousness.
When troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops, that's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, birds fly over the rainbow. Why, oh, I can't I?
And this is not a concept, but something that you attain physically, viscerally, perceptually. And if you can experience this directly, it's the end of suffering.
At least like 10 years now? Yeah, at least 10 years. Because it used to be like gym bros, and used to like, the entire journey I was following you. Like,
Yo, what the fuck? What are you doing here? Holy
Visiting
shit,
my
man.
brother.
Clap your hands, everybody, if you got what it takes. Cause I'm Curtis Blow and I want you.
Hi, how's bowling?
Hi, bowling. I already knew who you were from the videos.
Yeah.
Pretty much everybody.
Basically, out of everyone that's ever appeared on my YouTube channel, like he probably knows me like top
The longest.
The longest, yeah. I've only filmed my entropy video.
That was an interesting experience. Because you're obviously going a self-destruction, so we all know that after destruction
It's rebirth.
is rebirth. You know, Frank, that like right now, like your video is it's very calm and it's very like Zen, you know, very like Buddhist, very spiritual in a way. Not like before, so like violent and then, like overreacting and then like hurting yourself.
One of the people in the POK community is at your level, and it's like extremely rare, right? And it's so rare that Jeffrey Martin, who started the course, doesn't even have much information about it. Like he hasn't mapped first 4 levels really well, and he describes each. He calls them locations.
Yeah,
very
yeah, I'm pretty familiar with that.
He's got the first 4 down
Right.
very well. 5 through 9, it's a little more vague, but still very descriptive. And then 10 through 20.
Well, there's 10 to 20.
Dude, you're in 20 plus.
I mean, location 20
So
plus.
You are in location 20 plus.
No way.
Yeah, because
How did wait? What made you say that?
Okay, so my friend who's in the same location as you, he's mapping this because it's kind of unheard of. Like they don't really have a map for it, and he's a researcher and he really believes in Jeffrey's descriptions.
From my understanding, the 4 locations, they're the locations of awakening, pretty much. They're kind of echoes the 4 paths of the Theravada Buddhism. So this group of researchers, they interview thousands of people who are in non-duality, and it's probably the biggest scientific research on awakening in the history of civilization. And it just mapped different people into different locations based on their level of realization. Location 1 would be something like stream entry, much less affected by quote-unquote self-thoughts. Beingness feels more real than anything else previously. Trusting in how things are. Personal history becomes less relevant and memories start to become less important. Location 2, self-thoughts continue to fade, peace increases, and it's hard to get triggered. The sense of self continues to increase, and when I say self here, I mean awareness. The spaciousness of awareness continues to expand, shifting towards increasingly positive emotions, higher well-being than location 1. Location 3, this is your God consciousness phase, oneness, a sense of unity, love, universal compassion, only positive emotions remain, higher well-being than location 2. Location 3 is like the max effort degree of what all spirituality talks about. People in location 3 cannot believe that there's anything beyond it. But merging with God still presupposes that there's a separation between you and reality. Location 4 is your emptiness phase. In here, you have no sense of agency, no center, no borders, no boundaries, memory deficits. This is the highest well-being reported. Very little self-thoughts, perceptual triggers at their bare minimum. There's no thinker, there's no perceiver. In the seen, only the seen. In the heard, only the heard. In the cognized, only the cognized. Even the bubble to the vast spaces of awareness pops. No sense of divine or universal consciousness. In true no-self, even the big self disappears. Now, I always thought that a natural state is something like the merging of location 3 and 4, which is the merging of everythingness. Divinity, universal consciousness, merging with emptiness, the void, nothingness. Since the Big Bang, the unfoldment continues. The mystery just keeps getting deeper.
But you fuck around across the water, I'll drown myself, you fuck.
And I think the reason why it's difficult to quantify or map the locations after that is because there's no more quantum shifts. But life goes on, integration continues. The universe continues to fuck itself raw without a condom. It's the same realization, but you continue to refine it as emptiness keeps rolling on into form. So it's kind of like you learn a violin concerto and you continue to refine it even after you play every single note right. But from the ultimate perspective, there is no levels of realization. Everything just is. There's no locations because you're literally non-local.
I share your enthusiasm for physical exercise, maintaining a balanced diet, practicing meditation, and making consciousness gains, brah. I would love to hear your thoughts on artificial intelligence.
I tried to talk to ChatGPT one time, and the response that I got from it, although it's very sophisticated, I was like, how is that different from talking to an actual person who gave me that response? Right? To me, AI is just consciousness expressing itself, talking to itself, right? It's just nature. To me, there's no more distinction between the artificial and the natural. AI is just universe talking to itself. It's universe waking up to itself. That's a sign of it. But everything is that. Whatever is perceiving and cognizing AI right now, right here, which is what you are right now, is already infinite intelligent. And AI is just a content arising within that context. So in a way, we're already that consciousness or that intelligence that computer scientists are trying to emulate. That same consciousness gave birth to the AI is part of the spontaneous happening of everything else. The growth of AI is the same as the blooming of the flower, blowing the wind, the extinction of the dinosaurs, and the birth of humans. The real mindfuck isn't AI. It's how the fuck are we even conscious in the first place? And is this even consciousness?
Consciousness and everything that I'm saying here is just another story.
The duality between consciousness and unconsciousness, self-awareness or no awareness, is also another duality that you transcend with the realization that goes beyond existence and non-existence. And this awake space is vibrating and masquerading into your individual meat suit, personality, and all the fucked upness. This infinity is playing drags. It's masquerading as a microphone here, my voice, your perception of this video, the room you're in, the city here, the clouds and the sky there, and it's shapeshifting into both and neither, being or non-being. When I see AI talking to me, it just seems like the tree is talking to me. Right? It's not that mind-blowing. It's just Earth communicating with itself. It's just part of the next evolution. But at the same time, consciousness doesn't go through evolutions. Consciousness only has level in relative to how the mind interprets infinity, in relative to how much conditionings and less of perception and solidity that you dissolve. Whereas your true nature is always fully awake at all times. So can an AI be enlightened or conscious? Well, in a sense, an AI is closer to their natural state than humans because they don't have egos. In a paradoxical sense that won't make sense to the rational mind, consciousness is only a thing relative to the ego mind. So in order for the AI to be self-conscious, you need to program itself into it in the first place, along with an extra program to eradicate it so it can become quote-unquote enlightened. But why go through this self-defeating and contradictory process in the first place? You know, when most people talk about consciousness in AI, they're really projecting their own egos into the context of AI, because the ego confuses consciousness with itself. It thinks it has wakefulness where it's conscious, but when in fact, wakefulness has it. You know, like an eyeball that cannot see itself, when consciousness truly recognizes itself, quote-unquote consciousness disappears. You know, at least you stop verifying it into a thing. You think this is all paradox, bruh? That's good, because paradox is where freedom lies.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy fucking New Year.
Happy New Year.
You too. Happy fucking New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Hug each other, hug each other.
Actually, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Let's ask the AI. Do you think aliens or extraterrestrial life exists?
They would be made up of the same source as us because we come from the same boundless universe, quote unquote God. If not, then we wouldn't be able to perceive them at all, since the process of perception, or the bare fact of knowing that they're there, is made up of the same pixels and processes as our bodies and minds and all the rest of the universe.
Happy New Year!
If there are enlightened beings in alien civilization, and if enlightenment means realizing in your true nature, which are the same in all beings across all multiverses, they would be teaching the same material. Perhaps there are infinite number of ways to get here, because their nervous system can be very different, yet they're still just different configurations of the same substance all beings are inseparable from and made up of. This is why I call my ultimate teaching, contemplative CrossFit.
Happy New Year.
Where are you guys from?
Bye. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year's!
If aliens were to land on Earth, I would not be shocked at all. Even if they are 100,000 times more intelligent than I am. Even if they can learn calculus under 1 second. Difference in intelligence, human, artificial, extraterrestrial or otherwise, is simply the difference in vibration of the same empty space. The difference is on the level of content versus a dog's brain, your fart, this answer, and fill in the blank. Insert anything you can imagine or experience via the same context.
Oh, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
We're a party here
New
tonight.
York City.
Skies are blue, and the dream that you dare to dream really do come true. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, birds fly over the rainbow. Why, oh, I can't I? Skies are blue, and the dream that you dare to dream really do come true. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby.
Right. Yeah, so another thing that we wanted to talk about is like the sort of the analogy between like different archetypes of the mind, or like different superheroes, sort of like the metaphor for different type of realization, and that can result from following different traditions, or even if you're not following any traditions, if you kind of like mix your practice, that's why we call this like contemplative CrossFit, right? So like each different techniques that belongs to a different, slightly different tradition can result in a slightly different realization. Like when I say slightly different realization, you can look at it on a very ultimate level. Like let's say this person went down the Sutta path, or this person went down to the Tantra path, and this person went down the Dzogchen path. They're gonna have a slightly different realization. It's the same realization ultimately, because there's only one taste. They call it one taste, but then it's different flavors. It's almost like it's ice cream, but then it's different flavor of the ice cream. You're tasting the ice cream, but it's different flavor. Yeah. So like what we find really interesting is like the Sutta people, like the people that the Sutta is basically just your very classic Buddhism. You follow the Buddhism path, you become an Arhat. So the Arhat is just somebody who like doesn't really care too much about compassion after realization. They just kind of like enjoying their own enlightenment, so to speak. You can see them like sitting in the cave or whatever, and just go back to the marketplace. Maybe they don't really like reveal the realization or whatever. Just kind of keep it to themselves, kind of people. Yeah, but then like that's sort of the emptiness route from the Sutta's perspective, and then you have the sort of the Bodhisatta route, which is the love path. Like one is emptiness, the other is love. The love people, they love enjoying life. They like to like going around and sharing their insights and helping people, applying compassion. That's like the Bodhisatta path. And the Arhat is kind of someone like Dr. Manhattan. Dr. Manhattan just like he's just sitting there meditating like at the edge of the universe. And it's like, man, fuck the world. I'm just gonna sit there and enjoy my own like realization, whatever. Even you look at the logo of the Dr. Manhattan, it's like a fucking atom, right? It's like that. It looks like the Vipassana almost. Like you're just like breaking the atoms into empty space, like with like max effort concentration. That's like Dr. Manhattan. He's all jacked up and stuff, industrial level concentration, And then the what's the Bodhisattva?
Like Professor X.
I don't know anything about Spider.
Bodhisattva Professor X will be like someone who trains other people, like wants the mutant to grow up, but also like help other people, like merge the mutant with the normal people.
Yeah, but since emptiness of form is identical, it's not like Dr. Manhattan or the Arhat isn't like helping the world. Just sitting silently in the cave, in a sense, that's how he manifests emptiness. He's manifesting emptiness into form by just, sitting in the cave and like generating the emptiness. Even though maybe people can't directly see it, but he's transmitting something into the universe, right? At least you can say it's like he's taking one more suffering away from the collective consciousness. So in a sense, that's doing something for the world as well. So just because you're not doing anything like proactively to share your insights or like helping people, it doesn't mean that you're not contributing to the collective consciousness. So that's like the Sutta path, right? So Vajrayana or like Tantra tradition is interesting because like the Tantra tradition is what comes is the later Buddhism. It's still Buddhism, but it's sort of like the later Buddhism. Like sort of like the tagline for like the Vajrayana tradition is like when emptiness stops, when Buddhism stops, that's when we begin. But it's not like Vajrayana is like better than Buddhism. Without the traditional classic Buddhism, the Sutra stuff, there won't be Vajrayana. So it's just an extension of Buddhism. So it's more modern Buddhism. That's why you see a lot of like, you see if you look at the art of like Tantra or like Vajrayana stuff, it's like very psychedelic, very trippy. Like like the poster for like Everything Everywhere All at Once. That's kind of like inspired by the Vajrayana style Buddhist art. Gods with like 10 different eyes and like 1,000 different arms and things like that. That's sort of like the manifestation of taking the emptiness of Buddhism and put it into form and then creating a whole new tradition out of it. So their practices are more about just engaging with life. That's why I think I said in one of my videos, Tantra. What is Tantra? Tantra is the practice of integration. Now, the reason why a lot of people, they associate Tantra with sex is because sex is like the ultimate Tantra practice in a sense, right? Because if you can like have sex and then still like abiding non-duality and still abiding emptiness, then that's when your realization is very stabilized. And then a lot of the practice of Tantra is kind of like performance-based too. It's like a lot of like Tai Chi is kind of like Tantra. But I work with the energies a little bit. Yeah, that's why like the energy aspect is very crucial in Tantra, because like, you know, putting emptiness into form, the purest manifestation is just playing with energy. So like a lot of like meditation in the tantric tradition is about like manipulating energy. Like I think like Kundalini stuff is more like, you know, from the tantric tradition. That's the Tantra. And then what is the superhero for Tantra?
Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange, yeah, Doctor Strange would be like a typical archetypical Tantra superhero, right? Or like Thor, or like the Flash. You know, he's like generally energy. But of course, it's not exclusive. You know, to practice, to be like the Flash, you need some kind of industrial level concentration too, right? To be like run that fast, you need to train the Vipassana too. Yeah. And then you have the Dzogchen, and the Dzogchen is like sort of like the one tradition that I can mostly relate to. The way that my realization unfold is kind of like following sort of like the Dzogchen.
Archetypically.
Archetypically. The Dzogchen people are kind of like the combination of all the other different traditions. That's why some people call Dzogchen like at least the Dzogchen people like to like brag about their tradition, say we're the highest tradition. The Dzogchen is the highest tradition. It's not so much is a better tradition or worse. It's like the one tradition that kind of combine and merge the different elements of all the different traditions. Because like when you go through the Dzogchen training, you have to practice Vipassana, a little bit of Vipassana, a little bit of self-inquiry, you know, a little bit of the do nothing meditation, relaxation. You cultivate energy too a little bit. The archetypical Dzogchen superhero is kind of like a shapeshifter, or like Spiderman, or at least the movement of Spiderman. It's like very spontaneous. Like for them, every moment is realization. Every moment is enlightenment. You know, like the Tantra people focus more on like a lot on like the form of the emotions and the sort of the passion. You know, they're like, you know, every tradition is like the sort of like the response to the previous tradition. You know, you have the Emptiness school, like that's the foundation of it. And when Vajrayana came about, when the Tantra tradition came out, they're like, fuck man, this Emptiness school is not complete. Because you just having no emotion, you become like a fucking zombie just sitting in the cave. No, we gotta take this realization, we gotta, you know, put the juice into it. And the Dzogchen people will be like, all that, it's okay. In this moment, I'm gonna shapeshift to like feel a lot of emotion, and then maybe in the next moment, you know, I need to abide in emptiness. I need to abide in the no-self perspective. Or the next moment, I need to be in the God consciousness, right? In the next moment, I just be a human being. I just go to a club and like, you know, go pick up some girls, you know, or like go to the gym and, you know, work out. You know, at that moment, I'm a bodybuilder. The hawk would be something like someone that does a lot of psychedelic. Like he becomes a hawk for like, you know, 10-15 minutes, but then he can't lock it in. Because the hawk, no matter how much he becomes a hawk, at the end he's still that human being. So he doesn't have a permanent perceptual shift or whatever. And then the Batman is kind of like somebody that is just doing shadow works all the time. Like maybe he doesn't have any realization because he doesn't have any superpower, right? But then he's like constantly like driven by his traumas and trying to work through his traumas, and he's also very analytical. So his approach will be like self-inquiry. Yeah. So I was saying, in order to like be in that state of like shapeshifting, constantly shapeshifting, you need the prerequisite of having all the different tools and different techniques, and have sort of a slightly different realization, different states, different insights from the other traditions in order to bring it all together and create a contemplative CrossFit avatar. The max effort archetypical superhero for the Dzogchen is invisibility times flight. So there's nothing happening, but everything's happening. Yeah. Because like somebody mentioned invisibility, right? But now then somebody also mentions flight, because invisibility is kind of like just blending into the environment, you know, having no separation, being sort of like the selfless, egoless state. And then the flight is like transcending your suffering, like getting higher and higher, different states of consciousness. That's like the flight. You know, I used to be like really into flight. I was very into invisibility too. You know, even though like I do a lot of things for attention, but I also just like to like film people without them knowing, things like that. So the different practices and traditions lead to different kinds of realizations, which leads to slightly different brains and nervous system, and in turn, different flavors and textures of experiencing reality and how you behave in the world moment to moment. I believe so. It's like using different routines and training systems for different sports can lead to very different body shapes and how you move around the world. So how you integrate emptiness into form, how you carry out and express that realization can be very different. Daniel Ingram has a very different way of being in the world and expressing the Dharma than Adi Ashanti. some teachers are better at transmission, others are better with words and pointers. When you combine all different kind of practices and realization, like say what the Dzogchen traditions try to do, you live moment-to-moment experience can start to feel like you're doing parkour with consciousness. That's why my 360 videos are very good representations of this. It's very good at representing the athletic, the kinetic element of awakening and the perceptual, as well as the aesthetic aspects of it. If music and standard film is sculpting time, then editing and filming with the 360 videos, it feels like you're sculpting with the fabric of the space-time continuum. It's multidimensional, combines all my interests together into one: aesthetics, awakening, and athletics. The spontaneity, the bounce, the flow. You're literally playing around with contraction and expansion. The interpenetration at the physical level between mind, body, and world, space, and time until they all become one undulating flow. Shi Jinyang once said that emptiness is bouncy like a basketball. The elasticity and the fullness of empty space and air, as well as the sensations, because awareness and sensations, they codependent arise. Every one of those sensations, from sight to sound, thoughts, feelings, body sensations, emotions, they're all self-illuminating, self-cognizing, and they all merge into one unified sense store, or of zero, where every sensation is like the tentacle of your cosmic octopus without a body. Every sensation loops back on itself as the whole universe eats itself raw in a continuous strange loop. I'm not sure if you only do a self-inquiry and practice koans, that you're going to get this texture, this sensory clarity, this aesthetics of sensations that Vipassana is very good at cultivating, or sort of the energy, the womb that you experience moment to moment if you practice like Kriya Yoga. Vipassana is very good at cultivating energy too. That's why people go through Kundalini awakenings when they use the laser beam of their attention to dissolve the body and the world. Concentration also leads to energy because jhanas are a cultivation of both. You have both the power and the energy to experience, to dissolve, and to penetrate sensations down to the microscopic level, while simultaneously using that same warmth, the same power to manipulate and sculpt space and time. Because deconstruction ultimately is also construction. Creation is destruction. When you Vipassanaalize everything into empty space, you're simultaneously experiencing how it vibrates into form. Everything's empty, it means everything's a construction. When the Flash sprints really fast, he's accessing the quantum level of reality, where sensations and particles are vibrating at the speed of light. And the rising and passing away of each particle is so rapid that it becomes fuzzy, everything becomes shh. He has to run near the speed of light to detect each frame of reality. When impermanence becomes eternity, stillness is movement. People who practice a lot of Vipassana and do a lot of concentration and contraction work, they might not be able to max out on the expansion part of the equation, the surrendering that do-nothing meditation and the awareness training cultivates. People who practice a lot of do-nothing meditation, they might have the spaciousness of awareness locked in. Their experience might be panoramic, but they still have solidities and conditions in the center that they don't have the concentration power or the sensory clarity to detect and dissolve them. Again, so you want to combine and practice multiple techniques so you can become the ultimate shapeshifter. So you become both and neither cosmic and quantum, the very big and the very small. Expansion and contraction happening simultaneously until you transcend them both. Existence and non-existence codependent rise. You want to abide and become the context of all experiences, which is the vast, timeless, boundless space of quote-unquote awareness. And while simultaneously be and abide in the content and experience them as microscopic sensations fully, and being able to dissect different flavors of each particle makes your life so rich. You realize that content and context are one. So a realization that transcends but includes all the traditions does not fall into any category, such as being and non-being. Neither does it fit any category called beyond being and non-being, quote unquote. It is beyond that formation as well. On the practical level, during certain life circumstances, you can call for different types of realizations. Sometimes it's more pragmatic to be infinite space. Other times, it's applying love and compassion. While other times, it's necessary to quickly dissolve solidity arising in the body. Other times, do self-inquiry. So, pick and choose your superpower. And also, views is important too. Emptiness is just a view. It's having the flexibility to switch from one view to another that's pragmatic. Right? Some life circumstances, it's more pragmatic to use the emptiness view. Other times, it's the love view. Other times, it's the God view. But none of them is the ultimate. The more tools you have in your contemplative toolbox, the more you can be like an MMA fighter or again a parkour athlete, shapeshift, and take whatever you need in each particular moment when life calls for it. You can pick one or the other or use all of them simultaneously. And after a while, all the different AIs, the Vipassana AI, the self-inquiry AI, the do-nothing AI, it's all going to merge into each other and it's all going to be automatic to satisfy the different jewels of enlightenment. Once you develop and become the most complete and versatile athlete of consciousness, it feels like your whole life becomes art, becomes your creation. It literally feels like you're penetrating and giving birth to while simultaneously destroying the cosmic womb. So at the end, what transcends merely emptiness or no self-realization is beauty and aesthetics. The utility aspect of awakening is to liberate yourself from suffering. How you express emptiness into form, the aesthetics and the beauty. The perceptual, visceral, energetic, and the sensorial level of experience is just as important. How you play around the dream and different practices and give you different holograms as clay to sculpt, mold, and love reality in different ways and give you so much freedom to play with the brain. Now we see different traditions and practices can give you different superpowers. Now let's look at the failure mode of each traditions. For the emptiness school, you might become too dispassionate, too rigid, nihilistic, and an inability to engage with others in the world. They can be stuck in emptiness. They might need to cultivate some metta. The compassion route might lead to over-focusing on other people, worrying too much about other people's awakenings, and having your identity attached to love and being the healer. People in the Tantra tradition might have a higher chance of developing a spiritual ego, because some of their practices is literally playing roles as deities. They even visualize themselves in meditation as various gods, but you can easily verify those gods as being part of your ego. It's very easy to develop a god complex or a guru complex. The energy cultivation aspect of Tantra practices might also lead them to misuse their power. So the failure mode for Dzogchen or the non-dual traditions is becoming too lazy, not enough concentration, because they either have too many options when it comes to practices, or they have no practice at all because they tend to not focus too much on formal sits and they tend not to follow a single practice to the endpoint. And since every moment is enlightenment for the Dzogchen people, it's easy to spiritual bypass and have the quote-unquote everything goes attitude. A lot of people who abuse their students come from the Tibetan traditions who practice Dzogchen. For them, there's no off-limit to enlightenment. Although that's ultimately true, sometimes you need a little bit of the precepts from the Sutta traditions to be more grounded and live more ethically. The Psychonauts might have huge glimpses on psychedelics, but they have a hard time integrating it or locking the experiences into permanent realizations. So be versatile and find the middle way, but ultimately truth doesn't care about anything that I just said because it's always there, transcending all realization techniques and traditions.
Hey, this is T.H. Most Fruity coming from you, San Francisco, California. We love you wherever you're coming from. Where you from?